Welcome to Golf 99 at John Street in Brighton. My name is Michelle Tugwell. I'm Sussex Police Media Relations, and we're here as part of SPP 24 Hour Live. We have a guest presenter with us tonight, Doug Radmore, who's also a Sussex Police Youth Commissioner. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you.
And he's just going to talk a little bit about his role, what he actually does as a Youth Commissioner.
Essentially, the Youth Commission is a group set up by Katie Ball, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Sussex. The point of the Youth Commission really is to try and get in contact with people aged between 14 and 25 to try and gather their views on policing, the way it's done, and what can possibly be done to improve the way that policing towards young people is done in Sussex.
So is it quite a new role, or...?
It's quite recent. It was only set up initially in January, and it was initially a 9-month pilot project, which was completed initially at a conference on the 14th of September.
Okay.
Initially completed approximately that time, and we are just about to start the second phase of the project, which is gathering even more views than we initially did.
Right, and how did you get involved in it? How did you...
I was at university at the time, and they sent round a a set of applications to anyone at the university who's interested in getting involved, and just sort of filled it out from there.
Okay. So, what do your sort of friends and peers and that think about you being a youth commissioner, are they?
A few
They
said
ask what's that?
a few people have absolutely no idea what the hell I'm talking about whenever I bring it up. And a lot of them I've tried to get their opinions about it as well, so they kind of end up learning what's going on as it happens. So I try and keep them involved with whenever we do a new project, whenever we try and update something, I try and tell them exactly what we've been doing as well.
Okay, well, hopefully we're going to meet the duty inspector in a moment that deals with the critical incidents and the Golf 99. So we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So Doug's now going to have a chat with Inspector John Carter, who's the Golf 99. He's going to explain what that role is all about. So over to you, Doug.
First thing I wanted to ask really was, what does Golf 99 stand for? Why is it called that?
See you after next time. Go. Okay, sorry for the interruption there. Radio transmissions might contain sensitive information, which is why the recording has to be stopped for that purpose. So your question was, what does Golf 99 stand for? It's a shortening of Charlie Golf 99. Charlie is the area we're in, central. It goes back to the old call signs, and Golf is just a generic letter. And in essence, what it means is is a supervisor call sign. And in the case of Golf 99, it's an inspector who will lead serious and significant incidents.
Right, okay. And what sort of incidents generally do you find yourself dealing with?
Okay, so as a 99, I would be expected to take command of anything that involves high levels of violence. So we're talking about robbery offences, serious assaults, homicides. I'd also be expected to take command of reports of missing people. Any reports where vulnerable people, especially children, might be at risk. Robberies, any reports of incidents involving weapons, and anything else which is likely to result in a significant number of resources being needed.
So is that what the unit Golf 99 stands for, so to speak, is dealing with serious level offences?
Yeah.
And in terms of the responses you give to those kind of call-outs, how are those responses decided?
So I'll be alerted to, or I'll identify that something is running, and I'll use our incident management system for that, and I'll then complete an assessment on it. During that assessment, I'll complete an initial assessment based on the information that's available to me at that time. I may well require further information in order to make a fuller assessment, and I will direct either the communications staff or officers here to gather that information for me. I'll complete a threat assessment of that information, whatever it might be. So that might be, what threat is posed by someone who might have a weapon. It might be what threat a missing person may present to themselves or other people. And then I will set tasks in order to resolve that incident in the safest and most expedient way.
How long do the initial incident reports take to generate?
They're very quick. It's probably fair to say most of the incidents, apart from missing people, that we deal with here are reported over by the 999 system.
Do they often require a call in that case?
Yeah, and so the information comes to me very quickly, and quite often, I'll be alerted to a serious incident whilst the information is still coming into the call handling centre.
And are there sort of criteria that you use to judge the level of response, or is it more of a as and when?
No, I mean the only things that are set or set down is around anything involving firearms, in which case that is managed by other people. But if it's anything else, then it's an assessment based on the information that we have, and we use something called a national decision-making model to assist us with that. And in essence, all it is assessing the information and intelligence that we have, deciding who is at risk and what the threats are, applying the law and Sussex Police policy to that before coming up with some options. It sounds like a long process, but in reality it can be done very quickly.
How quickly normally?
Well, it depends on what it is, but so for instance, just now there was a request to attend a certain address. Information had come in from another force, and there was a suggestion that there might have been someone there with a knife. So I have to assess. I'm sending officers to something where there's a report that a knife may be involved, and what steps am I going to take to minimise the risk to anyone who might be in that premises and to the officers attending. And so I consider that information, how reliable it might be, and what options I have to my disposal, which might include the use of specially trained officers or officers with taser.
Right. From sort of that kind of area of discussion, in terms of the response you give, how often do you have to respond at sort of high speed, sending people out instantly? And do you get a lot of people who are just kind of responses that aren't instant? Do you need to, what I'm saying is, do you need to respond to every call instantaneously, or some of them more of a slow burn?
Yeah, I mean there are, so we grade all of our calls, and 1 through 4. 1 receives the fastest response, and 4 is an incident that is either resolved or is being reported for information. The decision as to what grade a call receives is made by the call taker who inputs that call. It can be changed by me. But that is based on national guidelines. Right. And there are some very well established guidelines as to what things should fall into which category.
What sort of things make up each category?
It will be around the relationship between any victim and offender. So, for instance, if there has been an assault, for example, is the offender still there? If they are, then obviously there's a risk that there might be a further incident, so we need to get there quickly. If this happened 3 hours ago, then there's no immediacy. Do we need to be sending police officers around on blue lights? Those decisions are largely taken outside of this office. I suppose my role is more confined to once we know that incident is happening, then it's about taking command of it. And making sure that things are happening in the way we want them to happen.
Okay. Going back to Golf 99 itself, how many officers actually are under your command at this point?
Right, okay. I mean, the way it works on this division is that the officers immediately under my command are the response team on duty, which will be a minimum of 2 sergeants and 18 PCs, and often more. That's the minimum. And but in addition to that, I can call on any officer who is on duty.
So anyone, anywhere, anytime, kind of thing.
Yeah, and if it gets really bad, then I can pick up the phone and ask for resources from elsewhere in the force.
How often do you find yourself being called out to the more serious level responses, especially during a weekend situation like this?
So that's very, very random. I wouldn't like to put a number on it.
Okay.
And the decision as to whether or not I actually attend an incident is very much a judgment call. My experience has been that once you actually get to an incident, so for example, if I attend, fire, for example, if it's a serious fire, police are often required to go to them, and if I do that, then you quickly lose awareness of what's happening elsewhere because you're focused in on that incident. Now it might be that that's entirely appropriate and necessary, but it's really a judgment call as to what instance I go to and when I go to them. As a duty inspector, if that's what we want to call 99, it's often what it's referred to. Typically, will also have responsibility for a cell block as well. Brighton and Hove, we only have one cell block. It's a very big one, but we only have one cell block. So for tonight, for instance, I'm the only inspector on duty in Brighton and Hove, and so I have responsibility for those people who are detained in our cell block as well.
How long is I suppose you probably might not be able to answer, how long is the average person being detained in those cell blocks, or is it normally just overnight?
That depends entirely on the circumstances.
Going back to the unit as a whole, what other sort of obviously you've got officers on the ground, sort of boots on the ground, kind of thing, but what other sort of resources do you have available to you?
So tonight, for instance, it's a Friday night, and so at the moment, it started 20 minutes ago, is our weekend operation around the nighttime economy, which we call Operation Marble. So there is a separate team dealing with that, and I can use those resources if I absolutely need to. In addition, each of our neighbourhood policing teams will have officers on duty at the moment. We have detectives on duty who come under my command. And were there to be force resources, which would include dog handlers, roads policing officers in particular, if they're in Brighton and I require them to go to an incident, then they'll come under my command.
Okay. How often do you find yourself calling upon those resources, or is it more of a, again, as it goes here and there?
It's an as it goes here and there. I mean, there are some incidents where their specialist skills become highly relevant. So, for instance, if we had a burglary that was reported, particularly a very recent one, then I may well find myself asking for a dog handler to attend that, to assist in locating the person responsible. Dogs have various limitations, and we know what those are, and we're also guided by the handlers as to what those limitations are. Similarly, roads policing officers, I've come from roads policing, so I understand that side of the business quite well, I would typically use those officers to deal with serious road traffic crashes, because that's where their expertise lies.
In terms of going back to what you said about the nighttime economy, how much do Golf 99 get involved in what you do as Operation Marble?
Yeah, so during the high season, as it were, the summer months, there will be a separate inspector who's leading the operation.
Specifically for Operation Marble?
Yeah, and that's just due to the fact it does get very busy, and you simply can't juggle both things at once. And also they operate on a different radio channel, so there's a slight technical problem there as well. And but during the off season, which we're in now, there'll be one inspector that oversees the whole thing, and the Operation Marble teams, they have a number of teams, each one led by a sergeant. If they need my oversight of something, then they will call me. and asked me to do that.
So you're currently in the off season for that?
Yeah, yeah.
So it makes it a bit easier for you for
Yes, yeah.
In terms of sort of the Friday night, obviously there's sort of the weekend kind of period, do you have more staff on during the weekend sort of times?
Well, yes, because of the Operation Marble business, and certainly our neighbourhood teams are a little bit more flexible around their shifts, and they will have more officers around peak times and around things that are particularly significant for them, and typically that is towards the later part of the day.
Imagine the West Street area.
Yeah, I mean, you know, West Street has got a couple of big venues on it, but it's not the only location we have. And I mean, tonight it's very poor weather out there, so not entirely clear there'll be that many people out and about. But you know, we have officers around to ensure that people are able to enjoy their night safely.
Are there any questions that we've got coming in at the moment?
No, not at the moment.
Is there anything about Golf 99 that you feel that you'd like to try and explain to either me or anyone watching? any fun facts or tidbits that maybe people might not know?
No, I mean it's a very interesting role, because I mean anything that's remotely serious will come through me, and so you it's a very busy role. You end up juggling a lot of things going on at the same time. But you know, police officers being police officers, we like the sort of more complex things, and the more complex they are, generally the more interesting they are. So yeah, for that reason, it's a great role. And
how long has Golf 99 been in existence?
Several years now. Several years. I mean, I've been an inspector for 6 years now, and it's been well before that.
It's quite a well-established position then.
Yeah.
Are they sort of ABC 1, 2, 3?
It's ABC, and it depends on the significance of that particular match. So if it's going to result in, and I'm not a great football fan necessarily, so I don't fully understand what the football terms are, but if it's going to involve someone getting promoted or relegated, I think I understand those two terms,
right.
Then obviously that's going to increase the sensitivity of that match, and one
Does it
team
depend on who's playing that kind of thing?
well, and the other thing it depends on is the history between the two teams, and there are certain teams that have a history and others that don't, and so we have you know, the lowest category match, which will essentially be policed by the club stewards, and to the highest category match, where we have public order trained officers on duty to deal with it.
Is it sort of rated A as the highest, and then B, C, or C is the highest?
C is the highest.
Well,
yeah.
I just got to answer that for a bit of accuracy.
Yeah, and so we, and that's what we do. And I'm actually, one of my other jobs is one of the Force Public Order Commanders, so I quite often get involved.
So you go over to
the
stadium
in that.
free match.
So, and unfortunately, I'm not a great football fan.
If you get the
Rugby,
opportunity.
different match, you don't.
Well, they've got the
you
things
can't.
going on at the stadium, don't they?
Well, yes, there is
So
two
World
of the
Cup.
World Cup
Yeah.
matches in there, but yes.
You might have to force yourself on that one.
Yes. Yeah, so that's something entirely different, but we wouldn't be doing that from our normal resources on duty.
So that's got a separate allocation just for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again, going off on a separate tangent, what sort of relationship do you have with the other emergency services?
Very good.
Not asking for specifics, just sort of.
No, very good. I mean, the last year the government started something called the Joint Emergency Service Interoperability Programme, JSIP, and that's to encourage better working together between all the emergency services, and we now do joint exercises, such like
Kind of exercises.
well, that'd be typically around major incidents, so big train crash or something similar, which would really test all of the emergency services.
All at once crash.
But having said that, even though that program has only started relatively recently, in practice there has been a really good working relationship between the three emergency services, and certainly something I experienced on roads policing is, if there is a serious crash, you'll inevitably have all three emergency services in attendance, and there's a really good working relationship between all three of them at that incident. And most of the time we understand where each other are coming from and what each other's priorities
Who's trying to do what, why.
Yeah. And JSIP is just around formalising that.
How recent was JSIP?
As I say, the project has been running for quite some time now. And I think it's about 2 years now. Been running around.
That's a national project as well.
Yeah.
Do you find that because it's been formalised and stuff like that, do you find that it's made your relationship with them stronger, or just more formalised?
I think it formalises it, and what it's done is to put us. It means we're using a common language.
So it creates something that you can all pull the same words out and you all know the other one's meaning.
Can we just pause for a second? Okay, so in a few minutes' time I'm going to be handing over to my night turn colleague, Inspector Richard Delacour. That handover process, I will brief Inspector Delacour as to any serious or significant incident that has happened during the course of the day, and brief him as to the current situation with any people who are reported as missing in particular. We also brief around any other significant incidents that are particularly important to this area, and anyone who we are actively seeking as wanted, and particularly those that need to be recalled to prison. That'll be the handover process.
How long do handovers normally last?
It depends entirely on how much information there is to give. Today it won't be terribly long, simply because there isn't a lot to discuss. But they can go on for quite some time. And obviously, when the handover is complete, Inspector Delacour will become the critical inspector, and so he inherits the control of those things. So he will want to satisfy himself that he understands the position in relation to each of those incidents before he takes that responsibility.
Hi, welcome back to Gulf 99. I'm sitting here with Richard Delacour, Inspector Richard Delacour, and he's taking over the night shift. Welcome, Richard.
Good evening.
So can you tell us about the evening so far? You've been dealing with a couple of incidents the last hour or so?
Well, since I took over, I've just reviewed a couple of missing persons. So some inquiries on one, but I'm happy that the risk is manageable and we can defer those for the morning. Another one has been put on the compact missing persons system. So that it's a system designed purely and simply to manage tasks and actions in relation to missing people. So we've closed the serial on that, and she's now on compact. And there was an earlier incident I just had to deal with in relation to an ex-partner turning up at the ex-partner's house, smashing some windows and being in possession of a weapon. Because there was reports of being a knife involved, taser authority was granted by myself. Fortunately, it didn't need to be deployed, and they've got one chap detained.
Okay. So I guess a lot of events are kind of domestic based that you deal with.
It differs from day to day. You can sort of judge it sometimes, unfortunately, around Christmas time, when families are thrown together for the first time in a number of years, occasionally. Sunday afternoons. Sometimes it can kick off when people are at home for weekends and obviously had enough of each other by the time Sunday afternoon comes around. But yeah, of an evening, you can go in peaks and troughs.
And how long are you here? How long's your shift you're working tonight?
Tonight, I started at 11 o'clock and I'm here till 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
And then obviously another Golf 99 takes over.
Or rather, this morning, yeah?
Yeah. This morning, yeah, 25 past 12 in the morning. So then another one takes over, obviously.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
a complete 24-hour
Cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
365 days a year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, here all the time. Okay. Can you tell us a bit about how you got into the role? So, well, how long you've been an officer when you joined Sussex Police?
I joined Sussex Police in 1989 after 5.5 years in the army
Right.
as a military policeman, and started up at Shoreham, went up the road to Gatwick. That was interesting, doing a lot of preparation for something you hope will never happen.
Yeah.
A lot of training involved in the hope that you never have to put it into practice, because it either means that there's been a terrorist attack or a plane crash. Then on promotion down to Worthing and came over to Brighton, 1997. So yeah, I've been in Brighton and Hove for 17 years.
Yeah, a long time. So, I know you've obviously worked your way up the ranks and then become, so you have to be an inspector to be a Golf 99, yeah?
Yeah.
And how do you get into it? What kind of attracts you to the role?
Well, at this rank, I think the... Sorry. No, you're calling.
Okay, we're back again. Obviously, just apologies there. We had to stop transmission just for a moment while Richard dealt with some transmission, some incident over the radio. So where were we, Richard? We were talking about how you get into the role of the Golf 99. What attracted you to
what
the
attracted
role?
me to the role. I think at this rank, the rank of inspector, it's the nearest thing I can get to doing what I actually joined the police to do. And that's being operational, out in the streets, helping people, working with colleagues in an operational theatre.
So is the training for this role obviously quite thorough? Does it take a number of months or?
I think the training for this role in particular, you have to do a critical incident commander's course. So it gives you training on the managing major incidents, dealing with critical incidents, the national decision-making model, and working out how to best progress and deal with incidents. And that's 2 days, I think it is, last time I did it.
Okay, and then they kind of let you loose, as it were, into the role.
Let me loose, yeah. I mean, when I was promoted, I was within NPT, Neighbourhood Policing Team, and I did that for about 8 months before being posted to the role of Golf 99. And it's a baptism by fire, but it's very enjoyable.
And I guess the more you do it, the more experienced you become.
Absolutely.
Events and stuff.
Absolutely. I get a lot of job satisfaction from it.
Okay, I'm just going to say hello to our Chief Constable Giles York, who apparently is tweeting pictures of our videos from SPP Live 24. So hello to you, Giles.
Sir?
Okay, so obviously you can get a number of, you can't obviously put a number on the amount of incidents you get on a shift. It obviously depends.
Yeah. Good days and bad days. I mean, we do sometimes get a run of what we call grade ones, and they're the incidents that we try and attend. I mean, statistically, if we're being measured on whether we attend them within 15 minutes, but they're grade ones for a reason, and you don't try, we've got a few minutes left. No, we just try and get to them as soon as we can. So it's our job really to see what resources we have. By resources I mean officers, obviously, and juggle. And if it means pulling people away from a grade 2 or other inquiries to ensure that someone's not getting hurt or offenders aren't getting away, then that's what we'll do.
Okay. And obviously Fridays, Saturday nights busier than maybe a weeknight, or not necessarily so? Or?
Traditionally, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we manage our nighttime economy by way of the traffic light system.
Yeah.
We have, I don't know if you, Inspector Carter mentioned it, we have Operation Marble,
Yeah.
which covers the nighttime economy, but that in itself is graded according to a risk assessment.
Right.
You know, if we've got an important football match the following day, for instance on a Saturday, then a Friday night could be a higher risk because of visiting fans coming into the city. But we use the traffic light system, green, amber and red, and we allocate resources according to the risk that we believe is going to have on that particular evening.
Okay, and this might sound like a strange question, but does weather have an impact? Obviously tonight it's very inclement, rainy, windy, thundery. Obviously if you've got a hot summer's night, you know, West Street is going to be really busy. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's a really nice, clear summer's evening, people don't go home, they go down to the beach. And unfortunately, sometimes when people have had a lot to drink, it can be a bit grey, and it leads to a lot of public order incidents and a bit of violent crime. And if it's cold, wet and windy and people don't hang around, they just go, you know, try to get under cover and go home. So by natural progression, there's less interaction between people in groups.
Yeah. And obviously policing Brighton and Hove as a city, because it's mainly urban, it's obviously different to some of the other parts of the force, in West Sussex, which has got a really big rural kind of area and stuff. So obviously you have to plan for that. It is more heavily populated and...
More heavily populated. I mean, Brighton and Hove is a great city, and it's the only division in Sussex which is so compact in one geographical area. You know, the other divisions are coterminous with the county boundaries, but they are a lot bigger, and they've got their own separate hubs. But Brighton and Hove is there's a lot of people packed into one.
Yeah. And it obviously attracts a vast amount of visitors, students, cosmopolitan.
Absolutely. I think they said there's 8 million visitors a year to Brighton and Hove, and proportionately, a larger proportion of those are within the summertime. But it is a tourist attraction all year round.
It's quite a diverse but exciting place to police as well, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what attracted me to police work, because every day is different. You know, you don't know what you're going to come to work to do, which is part of its attraction. Keeps the interest levels up.
Okay, and do you think you'll stay in this role until you retire?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I'm happy to stay. Other people might have other plans for me, but I'm happy to stay.
Okay, and how many Golf 99s does Brighton and Hove have actually, duty inspectors?
Well, there's one for each of the shift patterns,
Right.
of the 5 shift patterns, A to E, and they are responsible for providing the 24-hour a day emergency response cover.
Okay. Okay, thanks Richard for the time being.
Thank you.
I'll come back to you later.
Thank you.
Hello Richard, we're back again.
Hello.
Hello. Just wondering now, you're kind of 2.5 hours into your shift, how you managed to kind of keep going, and got any tips for us? Obviously you're used to it over the years, but...
Yeah. Well, some people find it easier than others. I'll bore you with a little story actually. When I was in the army, in the military police, we had to do checkpoints in Fermanagh. This was during the time of the Troubles, before the Good Friday Agreement. And there was only 2 military police officers for that checkpoint who had to provide 24-hour cover for a month.
Right.
So we did 2 hours on, 2 hours off during the day, and 4 hours on, 4 hours off during the night. So I quickly learnt the art of sleeping whenever and however I could. Yeah, and I do lots of power naps during the day and in between shifts. And well, it's like yesterday I only managed 3 hours sleep from the last night shift, and went back to bed before coming in for this shift tonight. Unfortunately, as you probably know, there was thunder and lightning. Lots
really
of thunder, really loud. So I think about got another hour. So hopefully it'll see me through. But coffee, high energy drinks. I've got some fruit there, so I'll snack on the fruit.
And there's obviously some people, like you said, are better at it than others.
Yeah, I'm no spring chicken anymore. Shift work is a young person's game. The older you get, the more tiring it is, and the heavier the impact it has on you.
Especially if you've got a young family or whatever, and you go home, you can't really sleep, can you? Because there's things to do and demands of family life and that kind of thing.
Well, because this job is mentally taxing, and you have to sort of have your wits about you, I find it hard to switch off. And after a night shift during the school day, Monday to Friday during school time, I stay up and do the school run, and it's only after that I can go and get my head down. And so it's
just got to keep going until you know.
Got to keep going, and but it's not so bad because, as I say, your mind's still racing, and I find it takes a while to sort of process what's happened during the day.
Yeah.
Do a bit of reflection, and then it's not until I don't get tired until about 2 or 3 hours after the shift anyway.
When you kind of wound down and the adrenaline's not kind of flowing and stuff.
Yeah, particularly.
So is there any times when it's so busy or there's a really big incident running that you actually go over your sort of shifts, so you wouldn't clock off, you'd carry on working, or?
Well, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and there's been 2 occasions where there have been murders whilst I've been on, and as a result of those I've ended up doing a double shift. So because on the first occasion we had to be forensicated out of the scene, and by that I mean myself and the police officers that were there had to make sure that we weren't taking away vital evidence away from the scene. So the scenes crime officers arrived and took some clothing, swabbed boots, or took boots of the officers that were in there, to make sure that we had effectively, by trying to save someone's life, contaminated ourselves in the scene. And the second occasion, similarly, it ended up being extremely late off, and by the time you've written up your evidence and statements and everything else, you end up doing a double shift. But those incidents, because of their very nature, they are, adrenaline kicks in, the blood's pumping, and that carries you through.
Yeah, and you do tend to stay on, don't you? Just everyone pulls together, it's a team thing. And everyone just works on. So presumably in that case you all had to be ruled out the scene, so that all takes time, doesn't it, to be processed and...
It's what I say, it's 2% adrenaline and 98% procedure. But the times that it's vitally important you get it right are those times when those incidents are critical, and when the adrenaline stops, you actually got to stop and think, what am I doing here? What do I need to seize in the way of evidence? And you can't just walk away from the scene. You've got to make sure that everything's I's dotted, T's crossed, and you've got all the forensic evidence that you need.
It's not the sort of job that you just down tools and walk away from, is it?
No. But that's part of the attraction.
Exactly. It's not a 9 to 5 job.
It's not, and it's not for everybody, because for those moments of excitement, yes, it is exciting, but you've still got to think procedure, you've got to think evidence, you've got to make sure you've got to get it right, because there's no second chances. If you haven't got that vital piece of evidence, whether it be forensic evidence or otherwise, quite often you don't always get the opportunity to go and get it. It's lost. And that could be the make or break in relation to an investigation.
That's golden, is it 12 hours? Or
the golden hour.
Golden hour,
the golden hour, So it is fast time sometimes, but as I say, that's the attraction.
So if you get a job like that running now as a G99, a murder, you wouldn't go out to it, would you? Just explain. You would go out to it, so you wouldn't be office bound. You'd actually go out to the scene.
I think it's the critical incidents that you really need to be hands on.
Right.
It's not that you don't trust your officers or your supervisors, but you need to get a good gauge of what's going on fast time, because you need to make critical decisions based on what's happening. And sometimes when that information is coming back through the radio or through the third party, like the communications room, there's the possibility that something is lost in translation, and you can't afford for that to happen. You need to be there and direct at the scene. So yeah, if something did come in that was pretty serious, I'd grab the keys, grab the kit, and we'd be off.
So not just maybe murders, maybe would you do if it was a big public order, something
Yeah,
public order?
large public order situations, raids, for instance. Last week, I think it was, we went. There was a stabbing at a squat in Brighton, and turned out to that. Major road traffic crash, anything like that that you think that could go wrong in the public eye. So it's a time to make sure that it gets done right, actually out on the ground, at the scene. Critical incidents. This is our role. I mean, a critical incident, I'll bore you with the definition here, is any incident where the effectiveness of the police response is likely to have a significant impact on the confidence of the victim, their family, or the community. So, if you think...
It's good to be out there and be seen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to be out there and be seen. And also, it's part of police work. There's absolutely... I mean, I've just got to review one more missing person, and a custody review that's due in about 20 minutes. But if there's nothing else going on, I might go out anyway, because I'm caught up on my emails, I'm caught up on my paperwork, and it's it's Friday night. Sometimes it's good to get out there.
Yeah.
But I'll hang on, obviously, while you're here.
Yeah.
Because you've got another crew out with the
response team at the moment. Yeah, they're on Channel 1 at the moment. So yeah. So have you had any, you've obviously had lots of memorable jobs as Golf 99. Is there any ones that particularly stand out? Or
the ones that stand out aren't necessarily when I was Golf 99. There's one incident I remember, I found a missing child, which is, it's a lovely feeling. Someone who's been missing for 4 or 5 hours. I think she was aged 8. And parents were absolutely beside themselves.
It's every parent's nightmare.
Every parent's nightmare. I've got two young children myself, so I can put myself in that position there. And it was, I managed to get enough people to come and join me and help to do the search, and we did a sweep of the beach. And she'd wandered from Worthing all the way through to Shoreham along the beach, because she thought she was walking towards the parents and got confused. But no, she saw me, policeman's uniform, instant trust, and running towards me, wrapped her arms around me. We had the helicopter up and everything. But no, it's a lovely feeling to actually find
And
someone.
it's moments like that you just think it's worth it, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the hours of
Yeah, absolutely. All the dealing with
waiting
the,
around and
all dealing with the horrible things. There are moments of levity and where you think
it's
really
nice
made
to
a
get a
difference.
happy ending after, things
Happy endings.
really
We like happy endings.
Yeah. So it's not all doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom. We live for happy endings.
Yeah.
We've elderly people who perhaps are a little bit confused, maybe suffer from dementia. Unfortunately, they can wander off, and we do get them reported quite regularly. Quite often, family members are aware, and keep an eye on them, and they don't manage to get too far before they're reported, so we find them quite quickly. But sometimes you look and it took really hours and hours before you locate them. In the case of poor old Nellie, sometimes never at all. No.
Really sad one.
Really sad one.
Yeah.
I still wonder what happened in there.
Do you want it in the file, or you?
No. And sometimes we deal with horrible incidents, and there's nothing you can do to, it's happened. You can't turn back the clock. You can't, nothing you could have done to have prevented it. But the response you give restores faith in the victim and their family, that we've done our best by them. And there was a horrible one a couple of years back that my team went to. There was an elderly lady in her 80s who was the victim of a horrible sexual assault. I'll tell you, we couldn't believe it when it was reported. and everyone was in a state of shock. They said, how could someone do something so horrible to someone so elderly and vulnerable? But it did, it happened, but the response that we gave was reassured her that, you know, she was going to be looked after, she would be cared for, and we're going to see justice for her. And she was a lovely, lovely old lady, and she wrote in and thanked us all for her efforts and her help. You know, really sort of very touching.
Yeah, and that's huge. When we were talking the major crime team earlier on, they're saying that that's the main thing, that they try and get justice and a result for the families. That's the families that are so important. And
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's, you know, there are some horrible people in this world, and our job is to try and, you know, prevent that from happening. But if you can't prevent it from happening, then, you know, make sure that whoever it happened to knows that we've done the best we can for them at the time.
Yeah. Obviously, on the whole, really, the public is supportive of the police anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, I think generally, I think we've got it right in this country. We do police by consent. You know, we're not routinely armed.
No.
And I think, you know, it'll be a sad day if that changes and goes the other way. Because I think a lot of people realise that we, you know, yeah, okay, you know, no one likes getting a speeding ticket or, you know, being spoken to by the police for something they've done wrong, but, you know, that's part of our job.
Yeah.
But we're still learning. We're still sort of getting feedback, and, you know, occasionally, you know, you read about it in the press. You know, police officers are human beings.
We're only humans.
We're only human at the end of the day.
Get things wrong sometimes.
Exactly, and with human failings. And, you know, sometimes there will be the odd individual who lets the side down because they don't have the core values at the heart of what they're trying to achieve. You know, and if anyone were to point that person out to me, I'd be the first one to say that you're not the person we want working for Sussex Police or the police service in general. You know, we don't want dishonest officers, we don't want bullies, we don't want people who don't treat people with respect. So, no, if I were to be made aware of that, I'll be the first one to say that. Slowly work.
Yeah. But on the whole, we're good.
On the whole, we're fantastic. I think, I mean, I speak very highly of my team. They do. They go out in all weathers, like today, and they deal with some people who don't like them very much. We spend 95% of our time dealing with 5% of the population, because, you know, as you say, the majority of people are supportive, do appreciate, more abiding, appreciate the efforts that we go to protect them, and that's all we can hope for. And hope that by our efforts, the remaining 5% decide to not do what they do and sort their lives out and get themselves back on track from whatever it is that's causing them to go on the wrong side of the track, drink drugs, whatever it might be.
Okay, thank you for that insight at 1:45 in the morning.
Right. We're doing well, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, and we'll keep going and then come back to you in a bit.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Richard. Okay, we're back with Richard for the final time tonight. We're just going to sign off in a minute or two. Just a final chat with us. What's kind of happening now, Richard? What you've been doing the last time since we spoke?
Oh, I've just been reviewing a couple of incidents, a couple of missing people, young people. Unfortunately, they do take up a little bit of our time by the very nature of the fact that they are minors and they're not where they should be.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable. Some are more streetwise than others, but yeah, and some don't want to be found by the police. Just want to be doing their own thing. But unfortunately, people of a young age sometimes don't know that they actually put themselves in quite a vulnerable position by being out this time of night, out on the streets.
And also, presumably, even though the weather's been bad tonight, there is still quite a lot of people coming out of maybe clubs now, that kind of thing. So it starts to get busier.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, some people can't take their alcohol very well, and there's a saying that alcohol just makes us more of what we are already. And if you're happy, you can be a happy drunk. But if you've not had a good night, sad or indeed violent. That brings out the worst in some people, and that's where we get our conflict. We do make sure that we try and maintain a high visible presence in what we call the flashpoints, like the taxi queues and places where there are lots of nightclubs and other night economy places. And hopefully everyone will have had a good night and will go away and get home safe and sound.
So what advice would you just give people that have been out for the night and maybe had a little bit too much drink?
Well, first of all, try not to drink too much. It's not good for you, for one thing, and you can have a good time without getting absolutely bladdered. And if you are of that way, look after your friends, look after each other, and make sure everyone gets home safely.
That's a really good message, I think, and it's been a really fascinating insight into the world of Golf 99. I'm sure everyone watching has been really interested in what you had to say and your colleague earlier on in the evening. So we'd like to thank you very much for joining us and giving up your time. And we'll let you get on there, and hopefully everyone it's good night from us here, but carry on watching on Channel 1, where our presenters are going into the contact centre at headquarters at Lewis to give you an insight to our phone call handlers, and there's some fixed cameras as well on Channel 2. But from us it's good night and thank you for watching.